Have you ever walked away from a conversation, a room, or even a relationship and felt that strange, heavy ache in your chest, the one that whispers you were just disrespected? Not in a loud, obvious way, not with insults or shouting, but in the subtle, soul-cutting way that makes you question your worth, a look, a tone, being interrupted mid-sentence, being excluded when you should have been included. You brush it off, tell yourself not to be sensitive, but deep down, it burns. And worse, it lingers. That burn is not weakness. It's a signal, a warning flare from your mind telling you that a boundary was crossed, and you let it happen. The truth is, most people don't get disrespected because others are cruel. They get disrespected because they've trained the world to believe they'll tolerate it. And here's the part no one wants to admit. Every time you say nothing, every time you smile and stay silent, you are telling them it's okay. You are teaching them how to treat you. You are signing an invisible contract that says, you can cross me and I'll still stay. Disrespect is not always loud. In fact, the most dangerous kind is quiet, because it slides under your radar, blends in, and becomes normal. And the moment it becomes normal, you lose a piece of your self-worth. You start lowering your standards just to keep peace. You let things slide that you know deep down are not okay. You feel that tension in your chest, the tightness in your throat, but you say nothing because you don't want to cause problems. But here's the truth you need to hear. That silence is not strength. That silence is surrender. This ends now, not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready, now. You don't rise by begging for respect. You rise by becoming the kind of person that demands it without saying a word. You rise by deciding fully, finally, that you will never again tolerate even a drop of disrespect. Because you're not here to be liked. You're not here to be accepted. You are here to become powerful in a world that feeds on weakness. And that power starts with a decision. You will not be crossed without consequence. If you've ever felt invisible, overlooked, or underestimated, this is your moment to change that. Not with rage, not with revenge, but with boundaries made of steel and a presence that commands value. You're about to learn how to make them regret ever thinking you were soft. This video will show you how to build unshakable boundaries, Machiavellian style, silent, firm, and impossible to ignore. Stay with this until the end. Because once you understand what you've allowed and once you see what you can become, you won't just stop tolerating disrespect. You'll make sure no one dares to even think about trying you again. This is where your transformation begins, and you'll never go back. Respect is not a gift. It's not handed out to the kindest person in the room or the one who always does the right thing. It's not earned by playing small, keeping quiet, or proving you're a good person. Respect is taken. It is seized by those who understand power, not the kind that screams or demands attention, but the kind that makes others think twice before crossing the line. The brutal truth is, the world does not care about your intentions. It only reacts to your presence. And if your presence is soft, passive, unsure, the world will treat you like an afterthought. That's why the ones who command respect rarely need to raise their voices. They walk into rooms and shift the energy by simply existing. Why? Because they carry something most people don't: boundaries that don't bend, rules that don't change, and a mindset that refuses to beg for dignity. These are not loud people. They are strategic, and they know a truth most ignore. People do not respect what is freely given. They respect what can be taken away. When you let people speak to you however they want, ignore your value, or treat your time as worthless, they're not just insulting you, they're measuring you. They're testing how far they can push. And the more you tolerate, the more you invite. This isn't cruelty. It's psychology. People sense weakness like blood in the water. That's why the nicest person in the room is often the most disrespected, because kindness without strength is seen as submission. And in a world of predators, submission is an invitation. If you want to be respected, you must learn to be feared, not through aggression, but through self-respect so absolute that violating it has consequences. You don't need to become cruel. You need to become clear. Crystal clear about who you are, what you allow, and what the price is for crossing that line. You need to stop hoping people will treat you right and start making it impossible for them to do otherwise. This is where power begins. Not in manipulation, not in domination, but in control of yourself, your reactions, your space. When you no longer tolerate nonsense, people either rise to meet your standards or they fall away. And that's not a loss, it's a filter. You stop chasing validation and start attracting respect. You stop explaining your worth and start becoming someone whose presence says everything. Right now, someone is watching how far they can go with you. Watching if you'll flinch, if you'll fold, if you'll stay silent. Let them see something different. Let them see someone who no longer tolerates disrespect in any form. Let them see the new version of you, the one who understands that boundaries are not optional. They are the price of admission. You are no longer available for disrespect. And from this point forward, that will be known. A boundary is not a request. It's not a suggestion. It's not something you explain over and over, hoping they'll finally understand. A boundary is a decision. It's a line that says, this is where I end, and you do not cross. And the second you make it negotiable, it dies. Second you ask for it to be respected, instead of demanding it with your presence, it loses all power. If someone can talk you out of it, it was never real. If you bend it once to keep peace, they'll break it next time to test your silence. That is the nature of weak boundaries. They invite erosion. Stop trying to be liked. Stop hoping they'll change. Stop softening your voice just to seem reasonable. You're not here to be reasonable. You're here to be respected. And respect comes when your standards are not up for debate. When you say no and mean it. When you say enough and walk away. That is strength. That is power. That is what people feel in the presence of someone who is no longer emotionally available for nonsense. You don't need to be loud. You need to be unshakable. When your boundary is real, it doesn't need to be announced. It's felt. It's seen in your tone, your posture, your refusal to engage with anything that dishonors you. You become a fortress, still, silent, immovable. The kind of energy that makes people pause before they speak, question before they act. You stop responding to disrespect not because you don't notice it, but because it no longer meets your level of engagement. You rise above it. Not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. Boundaries are not about others. They're about you. About deciding what you will and will not allow into your life. About recognizing that not everyone deserves access to your energy. And when you stop giving chances to people who've already shown you who they are, you start building something greater: dignity. And dignity is not loud. It is silent, but it echoes through every interaction you have. They will push back. They will call you cold. They will say you've changed. That's the point. You were too soft for too long, too available, too forgiving. But the version of you that's rising now doesn't entertain disrespect in any form. And anyone who mistakes your silence for weakness will learn how costly that assumption is. You are not obligated to keep proving your worth to people who keep failing to recognize it. Your boundaries are sacred. They are the line between chaos and control, between being used and being valued. This is your space, your energy, your life, and anyone who cannot honor your standards has no place in it. Say less, do more, enforce the boundary, and never apologize for building a life where respect is not optional, it's required. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to explain your value to be respected. What you need is controlled coldness, a presence so calm, so unaffected, that it unsettles anyone who thought they could get under your skin. When someone disrespects you, they're hoping for a reaction. They want your emotions. They want to know they touched a nerve, made you doubt yourself, made you feel small. But when you respond with silence, when you withdraw your warmth and give nothing in return, they are forced to sit in the echo of their own behavior. Coldness is not cruelty, it's clarity. It's the discipline of no longer bleeding energy where it's not appreciated. You don't need to yell to make a point. You don't need to argue to prove you're right. The moment you decide that someone no longer deserves access to your thoughts, your time, or your presence, you reclaim a level of control that words can never match. They can't argue with silence. They can't twist what you didn't say. And they can't disrespect you when you no longer participate. The most dangerous kind of strength is stillness, not because it's passive, but because it's precise. Stillness makes people uncomfortable. It leaves them wondering what you're thinking, what you'll do next, what you see that they don't. And that tension is power. When you stop being predictable, when you stop reacting on command, you become unreadable. And the unreadable are always respected because the unknown is always feared. Emotional control is your weapon. When you stop giving immediate reactions, you take away their favorite tool, your emotions. The more they can make you react, the more control they have, but the moment you stop giving them access to your emotional world, they lose all leverage. You become immune to their games, their insults, their attempts to manipulate. And immunity is power. Coldness isn't about turning off your humanity. It's about protecting it from being abused. You don't owe warmth to those who treat you with contempt. You don't owe engagement to those who disregard your presence. You owe yourself peace. And peace is often found in the quiet distance between you and the people who once believed they could walk over you without consequence, detach without warning. Pull your energy back like a tide receding from shore. Let them feel the void they created. Let them sit in the silence they once filled with their ego. Power doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like walking away without a word. Sometimes it looks like no response, no explanation, no return, just absence. And in that absence, they'll hear everything you didn't say. You become the lesson they didn't see coming. So when disrespect finds you, do not lower yourself to meet it. Rise in silence. Stand in cold clarity. And let your distance say what your words never need to. You don't rebuild your value by talking about it. You rebuild it by removing yourself from places where it was ever questioned. When someone disrespects you, what they're really doing is placing you beneath them. They are assigning you a position. Lower, weaker, less worthy. And the more you stay, the more that position becomes permanent. Every second you remain where you're not valued, you agree with their perception of you. That's how people lose themselves. Slowly, silently, by accepting spaces that shrink them. You want to be respected? Then disappear. Not to hide, but to reset your value, to remind the world that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. You don't need to announce your worth. You need to become rare. People only begin to appreciate what they can no longer reach. It's in your absence that they remember your presence. It's in your silence that they hear the weight of what they've lost. The moment you become scarce, your value multiplies. Scarcity breeds respect. The less available you are, the more seriously you are taken. Stop being everywhere. Stop responding to everything. Stop giving yourself to people who've proven they don't deserve it. Make access to you a reward, not a default. Raise the price. And that price is your standard. Raise it so high that only those with the capacity to match it are allowed near you. This isn't about ego. It's about energy. Your time, your attention, your loyalty, these are currencies. And if you're giving them away freely to those who disrespect you, you're bankrupting your soul. The powerful don't chase attention, they command it. They don't argue for respect, they embody it. They don't stay where they're tolerated. They move to where they're honored. Every time you walk away from someone who mistreated you, you send a message. Not just to them, but to yourself. You say, I am not staying where I am unseen. And that message rewires your mind. It rebuilds your spine. It strengthens your sense of identity. You stop living in reaction to the world and start controlling how the world responds to you. They don't deserve another explanation. They don't need another chance. They need to experience your absence. The absence of your forgiveness. The absence of your time. The absence of your light. Let them live with the weight of who you were. Because you're not that person anymore. You're not here to teach them how to treat you. You're here to treat yourself like someone who will never again be ignored. Raise your value by raising your distance. Make them feel the difference between access and absence, because once they understand that losing you is the price of disrespect, they will never forget your worth again. And you, finally, will remember what it feels like to live without shrinking. You don't rise by being available. You rise by being untouchable. Let that become your new standard. Control is not about domination. It's about discipline, the ability to pause when everything in you wants to react. The strength to observe when you're being provoked. The power to choose strategy over emotion. When someone disrespects you, they're not just trying to offend you, they're trying to pull you into their frame. They want you emotional. They want you unstable. Because once you lose control, they gain it. And that's where most people fail. They meet disrespect with rage, with ego, with impulsive words that only validate the one who provoked them. But when you respond with precision instead of emotion, you flip the dynamic. You stop being the target. You become the threat. Never let someone else decide the terms of your reaction. That's how you get played. That's how they win. Not because they're more powerful, but because they made you abandon your own power. The second they can predict you, they can control you. If they know what button to press, they will press it every time. That's why your silence must be unpredictable. Your response must be delayed, and your presence must carry an edge of mystery. The moment they can no longer read you, they will begin to fear you. The most Machiavellian move is not to explode, it's to calculate, to step back while they step forward, to let them expose their weakness while you conceal your strength. This is not about revenge, it's about power. Power over yourself, power over the game, and when you learn to respond only when it serves you, not when it satisfies you, you become untouchable. Emotion makes you impulsive. Control makes you dangerous. Don't argue with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Don't defend yourself to those who've already decided to disrespect you. Let them believe what they want. Let them speak. Let them dig their own grave with their own behavior. Because while they waste energy trying to provoke you, you can serve yours for the exact moment when your silence hits harder than any insult ever could. That is how you win, not by reacting, but by mastering the art of restraint. Not everything deserves a response. Not every attack needs a counterattack. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is wait. Let the situation unfold. Let them show their true nature, and when the time is right, make your move quietly, precisely, without warning. That's how real power operates. It doesn't seek attention. It seeks results. Your emotions are sacred. They are not entertainment for others. They are not tools for someone else's agenda. Guard them. Own them. Use them with purpose. Because when you stop reacting emotionally to disrespect, you become immune to it. And when you become immune to it, you transcend it. You rise above the noise. You move differently. You become the one they cannot touch, cannot manipulate, cannot control. And in that silence, in that stillness, you hold all the power they tried to take from you. There comes a moment when silence is no longer enough, when the boundary has not just been tested, but crossed with intent. In that moment, words are wasted. Warnings are irrelevant. You don't explain your standards to someone who has already chosen to ignore them. You act. And that action is detachment, swift and final. No warning, no closure, no long conversations about what they did wrong. Just absence. A cold, clean removal of your energy, your presence, your availability. Because the more you explain your worth, the more you dilute it. Let them feel your silence. Let them feel your distance. Let them feel what it means to lose access. Cutting someone off is not cruelty when respect has already died. It is self-respect in motion. It is clarity made visible. You owe no one endless chances. You owe no one explanations for protecting your peace. When someone shows you they are comfortable violating your boundaries, your only responsibility is to show them you are no longer accessible, not as a threat, not as revenge, but as truth. Their actions no longer qualify for your presence, and that is the most powerful message you can send. When you detach completely, no checking in, no passive likes, no keeping one foot in the door, that's not distance, that's hesitation, and hesitation is weakness. If someone believes they can disrespect you and still keep access to your life, they've already won. Your detachment must be absolute. Let the silence speak. Let the absence echo. Let your life move forward without them effortlessly, powerfully, unapologetically. Detachment is not about proving a point. It's about protecting your energy from people who've already proven they don't value it. When someone crosses your boundary, they are making a decision, and your decision must be stronger. Walk away so clearly that their memory of you is haunted by the weight of what they lost. Not because you screamed, not because you fought, but because you vanished. Because you showed them without a word that once your line is crossed, there is no return. Most people can't handle this level of clarity. They want to be liked. They want to seem fair. But fair to who? Fair to the ones who disrespected them. Fair to the ones who fed on their silence. You are not responsible for other people's comfort. You are responsible for the standard you allow around you. And if someone is willing to violate that standard, then you must be willing to remove them from your life. Fully. Finally, the power isn't in how loud you leave. It's in how quietly you never come back. That's when they feel it. That's when they understand. That's when they regret. And that's when you rise. No more half decisions. No more blurred lines. If someone disrespects your boundary, remove them and let the silence teach the lesson they refuse to learn through words. This is where you change. This is where you stop asking for respect and start embodying it. You've spent enough time explaining yourself to people who never intended to understand you. You've lowered your tone, softened your strength, made yourself smaller so others could feel bigger. And what did it earn you? Silence when you needed support. Disregard when you deserved recognition. Disrespect dressed as familiarity. That version of you, the one who tolerated, who waited, who hoped, is gone. It has to be. Because if you want to rise, you must become someone who is no longer available for violation. You don't earn respect by being loud. You earn it by being untouchable. The way you walk, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, it must all reflect one message. I do not tolerate disrespect. Not because you're cold, but because you're clear. Not because you're arrogant, but because you've decided to protect your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. The most powerful people in the world aren't loud. They're composed, measured, selective, and above all, respected. Not because they beg for it, but because people know what it costs to lose their presence. Let that become your standard. Stop chasing apologies. Stop waiting for them to realize your worth. Your value isn't determined by how others see you. It's determined by how you see yourself and how fiercely you guard that vision. You don't need validation from those who once dismissed you. You need discipline, the discipline to hold your line, the discipline to walk away without turning back, the discipline to trust that detachment is not loss, it's elevation. You are not meant to stay where you are constantly questioned. You are meant to ascend. And the only way up is by shedding everything that holds you down. That includes the people who see your strength as a threat. That includes the ones who only show up when they need something. That includes the ones who laugh when they cross your boundaries, then act confused when you disappear. Leave them behind. And don't explain yourself. Your silence is the announcement. Your success is the proof. When you rebuild your standards, the world adjusts. Some people will fall away. Let them. Some will criticize your distance. Ignore them. Some will finally understand, but by then it'll be too late. That's the consequence. That's the price. That's what happens when you transform. Not everyone gets to go with you, and not everyone should. Now you move different. Now your presence is earned, not given. Now your space is protected by standards no one can talk their way around, and those who cannot respect it will never reach you again. You've spent enough time shrinking to fit into spaces that weren't built for you. Now you expand. Now you rise. Now you walk like fire. Silent, untouchable, and impossible to forget. When you walk with self-respect, you no longer seek it from others. You stop waiting to be acknowledged, noticed, or understood. You move as if you are already known. Because you are by yourself. That's the power people feel but can't explain. It's not arrogance, it's certainty. It's the quiet force of someone who no longer needs permission to be powerful. The world responds to this energy. It pauses, it recalibrates, it treats you differently because you treat yourself differently. And that change starts the moment you stop negotiating your value and start declaring it with every step, every choice, every silence. There's a difference between being nice and being respected. Being nice is easy, it's comfortable, it's safe. But being respected requires edge, it requires boundaries. It requires you to say no even when it would be easier to say yes. It requires walking away when it would feel safer to stay. Most people are not willing to do this. They'd rather be liked than respected. But being liked is cheap. It comes and goes with mood and convenience. Respect, when earned correctly, lasts. It lingers. It becomes a part of your identity. You don't get to this level by being reactive. You get there by being strategic, by becoming so emotionally disciplined that nothing shakes your core. You don't flinch when challenged. You don't chase when someone pulls away. You don't explain yourself to people who already chose to misunderstand you. You let them watch. You let them wonder. You let them regret. That's the art of silent strength. That's the weapon most never develop. Emotional control sharpened into authority. Every move you make from this point forward must come from a place of self-command. You don't respond to disrespect with equal pettiness. You outclass it. You rise above it so far that responding would feel like falling. The people who once tested you will notice the shift, not because you said anything, but because your energy is no longer available to them. They'll feel the wall they helped build on lane. And by the time they realize they can't climb it, you'll be long gone. Now your actions speak for you. Your standards protect you. Your silence punishes louder than your words ever could. You walk into every space like you belong there because you do. You carry yourself like you don't need anything from anyone because you've already built everything within. And that's when the dynamic changes. People rise to meet your energy, or they fade. But either way, you don't chase. You don't beg. You don't wait. You walk. This is your rebirth. Not into someone new, but into who you were always meant to be, strong, calm, untouchable. You no longer live for approval. You live with purpose. You move with intent. You exist with boundaries so strong they don't need to be spoken, they are felt. And those who feel them will know without question that disrespect is never an option again.